Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me loud and clear? Hopefully you can. I'm here by myself again, so hopefully I've done it right. Just give me the thumbs up or let me know that you can hear me. It is a spooky door. You're very right. It needs the hinges adjusted. So let's just make sure everybody can hear me. Hi, Toni. Ready and waiting. Morning. Morning, Toni. I'm just waiting just to make sure everybody can. Can you hear me? No, it's not my Eureka. My Eureka's had some good old WD-40 on it. Yes, sound. Hi, Toni. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well. Again, it's me, Toni Derrick, in the fabulous Wakefield studio, where this morning we were going to be doing some more painting. So if you joined us last Saturday, you will know we did like a little bit of a field with some grass and some little flowers floating in the wind. Now, you all did an incredible job. I'm so proud of you all for picking up that brush. You know, we're not going to be artists overnight. It takes practice, it takes courage, and the results do finally come, and you'll find your sort of niche within the watercolouring. Because some people like the fine art watercolouring, some like very loose, some like abstract. So over the course of this month, every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, we're going to touch on lots of various ways of being able to do watercolouring, okay? And then hopefully by the end of the month, you'll be able to pick one of the days that you really loved or one of the techniques that you really loved, and then you'll be able to take it forward into your card making or your scrapbooking, or even if you do want to do painting within artwork, then hopefully if you just take one thing away from this month, I'm happy with that. The most important thing to me is that you've picked up this brush. The results, yeah, they'll come. They will come in time, but you've picked up this. So, and I think from what I've seen, you're all enjoying picking up that regardless of the result. So let's say good morning to everybody. So we've got quite a few on this morning, all eagerly waiting. So we've got Jackie, hi Anne, Bridget, Sylvia, Michaela, Joe, Trudy, Annette. Good morning, everyone. Just a couple of things that I just want to cover before we actually get into the painting. I just need to do a camera check because I'm on my own. So just give me a second, guys. Yep, we're all good. We're all good. From what I can see. Oh, yep, we're all good. So that's good. So when we go live, obviously everybody's talking, everybody's excited to see each other. But what we must be mindful of, guys, is we've got people on who are not painting at all, but still want to chat and still want to talk their way through the process. Now, I don't want anybody to say to somebody else you can't talk, because, you know, it's a chat and people can talk. But what I suggest is, if you're wanting to come on and say hello to your friends and things like that, then come on a little bit earlier, come and say hi, and then throughout the live chat, you can still talk. If you have any questions, you know that you can ask those questions. But if we can try and keep the chat throughout the painting about the painting. If you've got a question, pop like a question mark or QQQ, or if you've got something about it, then we can answer it, okay? But don't feel like you can't talk, because you can. But in the same breath, please be mindful that we need to keep the chat to a minimum so I don't miss any questions, okay? But you are allowed to talk. Please don't think you cannot talk, because I appreciate we have people on here who talk throughout the show, and that's absolutely fine, and then paint later. But just if we can keep it to a minimum so I can keep up. I still haven't had my eyes tested yet either as well, so it sort of like goes into a blur sometimes when it's going really fast. So if we can keep it to an absolute minimum from here on in with regards to the painting, that would be brilliant. Okay, just for everybody's sake, because I know a lot of people are really excited about today's class, particularly because it's poppies as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint these lovely sort of loose, very loose. Now, over the course of the month, I'm not here to teach you how to be amazing artists. That's not the point. What I am here to teach you is, one, pick up that brush, as you all know, but just to find your way in watercolouring, because we are all so super different. I like splats, some don't. Some's starting to do the splats. I like the very loose, the very forgiving. I like the idea that one person may look at a piece of artwork and another person may look at another piece of artwork, and both people see it in different ways. That's my style. But you will find your own style. So that's where we're going within this month. So there are no right or wrong ways. And as you saw from last week's painting, everybody's paintings were so different. Some were really bright, some were really sterile and formal, some were so loose and floaty. So you'll see that as painters, we are all very, very different. And I would encourage you not to be like anybody else. If you like bright and your natural instinct is to put a lot of colour down, then go with it. You know, who cares? It's your painting, that's your style, it's naturally happening, so why change it, okay? So go with the flow. I can tell you what to do and guide you in sort of some of the ways to do it, but if you're naturally going down one path, follow that path, because it will lead you to something that's quite unique, and that in itself is incredible. So let's have a look. Hello. Right, so we're all okay, brilliant. Right, so what we're going to need for show today, so what I would say to you as well, sorry to keep like going back and forth, but if you've got time this week to go back and revisit Saturday's sort of field and give it another go, please do it, because, you know, it's training this hand to, and your eyes will change as you look at your paintings as well, and you will be able to see step by step by step how you've progressed and what you can change along the way. So over this month, try and revisit earlier ones as well, and then at the end of the month what we'll do is we'll show all of our makes, like maybe stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and maybe the rest of the team on our Eureka fan page and the design team and me can look at your journey, because honestly you will be blown away by your own journey. Yeah, we might not have the best masterpiece at the end of it, but you will see from the beginning right to the end how much you've come on. Trust me, you will see it. And it's very uplifting to see how much you've come on, and then it encourages them to keep going, just keep going, you know, and then you can incorporate it into your cards and things like that. We all love a good cheat in our cards. We all love the silhouettes where we can paint on top of. But isn't it cool that, you know, you're not scared of picking up a brush? And isn't it cool that if you want to paint a quick sympathy card with a daisy or a poppy and give it to somebody, how cool is that? It's a personal thing, isn't it? And I just love that. So yep, we're okay. So let's get some. So what we're going to need for show today is I have 3 pieces now. I wanted to paint these poppies in 3 ways, okay? So a wet in wet, a more formal, and then sort of a very loose one as well. So you need 3 pieces of watercolour card, not big ones. I've just got little A5 ones today. So yes, last week we did A4, this time we're going to do A5. You're going to need some watercolour paints of some form. I'm just using the ones that I use every day for my card making. They are good enough. And then we're going to need a brush, maybe a size 4, a 5. You might get away with a size 6, a 3. So don't go out and buy all the expensive stuff. You can make it work. And if it's something that you love and you're thinking, I really want to get into this, then you can go out and buy the other products that, you know, are going to enhance you as a watercolourist. Just a quick one as well, watercolouring is one of the hardest ones to learn. So if you master watercolouring or get a feel for it and love it, the other ones naturally come, like acrylic and gouache. They come naturally, that's what I'm told. So if we can master watercolour, guess what? We're all going to be amazing at everything. That's my thing anyway. So question, what number brushes do we need today? I hope I've just covered that one. About a 4, and we're going to need a flat one as well. Flat one is a really must in your stash, because you'll see I have this one from my crafty days, which is perfectly fine as well. Just a flat one, so we can get some lay down of water. You'd be there a long time with this one. So let me just, have you all got a cup of tea or a cup of coffee? I know I've got my cup, sorry. Other brands are available. My son wanted a sausage sandwich, so it was rude not to get the coffee as well. So 3 pieces of watercolour card. Are we all set to go? Question, where can we share our paintings? Okay, all you need to do is join the Eureka fan page. So that's on Facebook. That's managed by the lovely design team who will look after you all, put their arm around you all, and that's where you can share your makes. We've got our Stamps by Me Facebook page as well. You can pop them on Instagram if you want to, and link in with Stamps by Me as well. But Eureka fan page is where predominantly most people share their artwork. And Karen will accept you if you want to join. It's actually good that I've got a lid on that coffee, because, you know, you've seen the trail, haven't you? Right, so let's have some crafty fun. I've got through everything. Let's go. Size of the card, I'm using A5. It's just from the Carter. Now, if you saw, it's this one here, but if you saw me on TV yesterday, they've reduced this to $6.99. Great price on Create and Craft at the moment for club members, that is. We have it available on our web as well, but use what you've got in your stash. So let's just grab one piece of cardstock here. Okay, so I always encourage to go with the card bigger than you would normally, and then we can cut it down, okay? That's just the way that I work. If you're working on a postage stamp, it's really difficult. So make the card as big as you dare go, which is A5 for me. And then when I've done my masterpiece, I'm going to trim it down and I can mat and layer it onto a card, or we can pop a little frame around it, you know, so it looks like a piece of artwork. Okay, so I'm using the smoother side of this watercolour card here. So let's just go on to the overhead. I hold my breath, I'm scared. It's like it's going to jump up and bite me, you know. So you need some water, and we need our flat brush. So for this technique, we're going to go wet in wet technique. So this is going to be very loose, very, very loose. So you all learnt last week that when you take a little bit of water out of your brush, when you've got the paint on your brush, if you take a little bit of the water out of your brush, you get better results. So have a piece of tissue to hand as well, okay? So a question, bumpy side or smooth? I'm doing smooth. It's my preferred choice. If I want to more abstract, then I do with the little rough side, but I'm going smooth, and it's a great starting point if you're just beginning. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to get some water here, and I'm just going to do a wash of water. Now, I'm not pinning it down today, okay? If you find that your watercolour card starts to really cockle, because there's different types of watercolour card, if you pop some water on your mat, whatever surface you're working on, hopefully it is a surface that is not going to ruin, and then you put your card in there, the water sticks to the card, so it sort of helps with that cockling effect, if that makes sense. Give it a chance. And then when you come to put water on this side, it sort of settles down. So all I'm doing is I'm just popping some water all over. Now, I'm not taking it edge to edge because it's going to be flowers, isn't it, today? So we're not doing like a landscape or anything. So I'm just getting some water down. Now, if you're thinking, have I got the water down? Is it covered enough? Bob down, have a look. You'll see me here, look, having a look. Bob down, have a look. If you've got a shiny surface, then you're good to go. So I'm doing left to right, and I'm going to go top to bottom as well. So we're getting all of those lumps and bumps. But as you can see, because I put that piece of water down underneath, my card is really nice and flat, okay? So just make sure I've got enough water down there. And at the side, just up and down, up and down. So what a lovely shiny piece of watercolour card. There we go. So I'm going to go today with red. Now I have a red in here. Red is one of the hardest watercolours to make. Did you know that? So you will find that whatever palette you're working with, there'll all be different shades of red. They'll all work, okay? They will all work. I'll just get some more water on the base of here. So let's mix some red. So I'm just going to take my smaller brush here and let's mix some red. So I've just got my reds here. So let's get some good old water in here. Let's get some nice red mixed up. If you're wanting a darker red, add a touch of black or a touch of blue. If you're wanting them darker, I'm just going to go with the red that's in my palette because I don't want to start you know, introducing colour mixing, because then it will just sort of like throw us really. I'm getting a really nice pigmented red on there because poppies are super bright, aren't they? So I've got a nice mix on there. So I'm just going to wet my card again just a little bit, simply because I have got my heater on. It's really cold. I'm just going to make sure I have got a nice lay down of water on there. It's drying quite fast under my... Who was it last week who said, don't put your heating on? I'm just making sure I've got some nice water down there. So all I'm going to do, let me just show you first of all, where have I put the painting? So as you can see, there is no format to any of these poppies. I just literally painted them. But the first technique we're going to do is we're going to do wet in wet. So we're going to do 4 heads, like in that painting, but they're going to be different. So let's just pick up some red from our palette here, and because my cardstock should still be wet, let's concentrate on a poppy that's looking at us, like on the face. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop some red and I'm just going to pounce, 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 and you can see it sort of starbursting out there. Can we see that there? So I'll just pick up some more and I'm just going to keep pouncing until I get a nice circle of colour. So I'm pouncing in circles, and because my card's wet, it's sort of ballooning out like one of those dandelion clocks that we see that there? So I think this is probably just a little bit bigger than a 50p piece. Okay, you can just see the water's just doing its thing. I'm just going to let it work its magic. You can still see it's still moving. So all we're doing is a circle. So this is wet in wet. Okay, so shall we do another facing forward one, because they are the easiest ones to do. So let's pop another one here. So pounce, pounce, pounce in that water that we've got going on. And we'll maybe don't do it as big as your other one. Maybe a little bit smaller. So just pouncing that red in there. You see that there? So just a little smaller one here. You can see it's still moving around in that water. So make this one a smaller one because it does grow a little bit. Like so. We see that there? And then shall we do a side one? So I'll pick up some more. Hopefully my cardstock is still wet. It is. So what we're going to do this time is, rather than like a frontal one so you can just see face on face, we're going to do like a side view. Okay, so all we're going to do is we're going to do like a little C, like a curly curse, my son would say. So I'm just going to do a little C. We see that there? Curly curse. I'm just pouncing, pounce, 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 like so. I'm just going to let it work its magic. And then I'm just going to get another one, and let's do a little one up here too, another little C. Obviously it's not the correct way a C would be, but just like a curly, not a kicking curl, a curly curl. You see that there? So you can see it's sort of doing its own thing. Yeah? So you just have to be patient because it is a wet in wet technique. So whilst it's doing its thing, we can make it a little bit darker. So if we mix a little bit more red, and pop a little bit more red in the centre. So pounce, pounce, pounce. It's just thicker red. Can we see that there? And then a thicker red in here in the centre. So you sort of like got a darker one in the centre. I'm just going to give these a second. Is everybody with us so far? Hopefully. So what we're going to do, because we've got these lovely curly curls here, we've got two that are going to be facing away. We've got two frontal ones. And I'm just going to do a little one here. So I'm just going to pounce that red into another little C down here. See that there? So we've got like a little bit of a face going on there, haven't we? Okay, so I'm just going to clean my brush. So I'm just going to let it work its magic. My card is still a little bit wet, so that's fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, the red that we've got here, okay, we do need to make it a little bit darker. So I'm just going to take a little bit of black and add some black in. Did you see me do that? Not much. So it just makes it a little more of a burgundy colour, okay? You see that there? So just add a little bit of black, don't go too heavy. And then all we're going to do is we're just going to, can you see the difference when you spot it in the centre? So I'm just going to spot some of this in the centre now. And some in the centre of this one. It's not too different though, don't do it too dark. Can we see that there? And then on our C's here, I'm going to add some to this part here. Just going to fill in that hole with the darker one. Can we see there? But I'm not going to touch the lighter bit, I'm just going to fill in those holes. Can we see? Hopefully we can see. And you can keep just adding that darker colour to the middle of the C's. And this is just going to give you a little bit of depth with regards to petals and things like that. Now, if you are a watercolourist already, you will know to manipulate. But this is the easiest way I've found for watercolourists. So I'm just mixing a bit more red here with a bit more black. No, not that much. Add a bit more red. So you can see I'm just adding some more. Just to the centre, okay? Not to the curly that we did, just to the centre. This is what's known as very loose, very forgiving. So you can see already we're sort of getting some heads together. Can we see that there? I'll just add a bit more dark up there and a bit more up here. So on the ones that we put down as circles, we're going in the centre. But the ones that we did with the C's, we just fill in the centre of the C. And you see how it's sort of like giving you those lovely head sort of effects there. Okay. So what we need to do now is we need to mix a little bit of black. Okay, so let's mix some black. Very scary. So this is where we're going to show where our sort of poppy, the centre, and where it's connected sort of like thing. So all I'm going to do is I've mixed some black here. It's not like loads of water, but it's enough so I get a little bit of movement on my card here. So Mandy's saying, do we wet all the paints? I don't wet all my paints, Mandy. Some people's paints might be a little bit hard or a little bit harder to get going. I don't, but it is personal preference. You can give them a spritz with some water if that helps. And it's not a silly question. Right, so all I'll do is I've got some black on my brush here, and you can see now if you've got it heavily loaded with water, you can take it out on your tissue. Just remember that. So let's pick up some black here. So I'm going to pop some black into the centre of the poppy on this one. Now I'm just like dotting it with the tip of my brush. Can we see that here? I'm just going to let it do its thing, okay? And this is another, we did two front ones, didn't we? So I'm going to pop some into the centre of here, just a few black spots. Can we see that there? And then these were our side ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop some black to the base of our side ones. So it'll look like it's facing this way. Does that make sense? And then this one. And then did we do this as a front one? No, we didn't. We did it as a side one. So we'll pop them to the side there. Can we see that there? So I'm going to add a bit more because it's disappearing to nothing. You see how they're getting a little bit darker? I'm just letting the water do the thing. I'm not, overly concerned. They have got no shape or anything yet, and we haven't put our leaves in or anything like that, so stick with it, okay? I'll just keep adding the black whilst everybody's adding their lovely black. So I'm just keep punching that black in. And as you can see, as the card starts to dry, what happens is you get less movement in your paint. So this one's really pretty and this one's really pretty. So they're coming together. Okay, so we'll just let our black do its magic. And let's go back to our red. So I'm just going to take the red. Now I'm just going to go clean red, I think, this time. I'm just going to take some lovely red. Now you can always add a little bit of orange because you do get that tone sometimes. So if you want to add a bit of orange, not that it'll make much difference, but if you want to add a bit of orange, you can. And there's some beautiful blue poppies as well, isn't there? So if you like blue poppies and things like that. So I've just got my brush loaded here again. We don't want lots of water, but we do want a bit of water. So I'll just take out that excess water on my tissue here. So So if it's bleeding too much and it's sort of like blending into a big blob, don't do anything else. Just let the water evaporate and get it to a point where it's going to stop bleeding, okay? And that's just one of the learning curves with wet in wet techniques, okay? So all I'm going to do here is my card is, I think it's dry. So I'm still going to go with it though. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to pounce another C in there. We see that here? And I'm going to connect it with that black. We see here? So I'm pouncing that C back in. Can you see the detail there? Hopefully you'll be able to see that. So I'm just pouncing that C back in that we've lost. And this one at the base. And you'll see why in a second. Just painting that lovely C back in there. I'm calling it a C. I don't know what the correct terminology is for it. I'm just painting the C back in that we lost. And you'll see why in a second. And then what we're going to do is you're going to wet your brush, totally wet your brush, and then you're going to dry the brush on some tissue, and this is what's called a lifting technique. So my brush is pretty dry, there's hardly nothing on there, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to swipe across that C with this dry brush and watch what happens. And you see how it's taking it back out? So clean my brush. Can't do my work around, so I'm just taking that dry brush. And see how you've got sort of light and shade in the poppy head there? And all you're doing is you're just going to take that colour out. And my brush is dry. Hopefully your paint is wet enough to take that colour out. You see there? Hopefully. I'm just going to do it here. So I'm just sort of like creating a little, it's shown better on that one. Can we see that there? So I'm just taking that colour back out, but I'm following the design of our lovely C. Does that make sense? I hope so. And this is just called a lifting technique, which gives you a lovely, lovely sort of light and shade. So if you've got like a harsh line like there, just take your brush, your dry brush, and run it across the C and lift it out. You see that there? It's a hot mess, Tracy. Caterpillars grow into butterflies. Okay, so you can see we're getting some sort of heads of some flowers. You've got some from the frontal, you've got some from the side, okay? So I'm going to leave that be. I'm not going to faff with it because it's just the start of our heads. So Mandy, we don't re-wet the card because what happens is you'll end up with like a cloud effect if you re-wet the card. So all we do is we wet the brush and pop the colour back in, and then we dry our brush and we take the colour back out, and it gives you this sort of appearance of some sort of heads and things like that. And the sort of rugged edge that you get round here is the look you get when you do the wetting wet. And when we do our next one, you'll see how different it looks when we don't wet the card. Okay, so just persevere with it. So let me just clean my palette here. Let's just grab this palette actually. So let's mix up some green and let's get everything connected so you're not all worried about how it's going to look. Okay, so let's mix up some green. I'm going to use this one because I've got space on here. So let's mix up some green. Oh, any green. I'm mixing two greens here. As you can see, I use a lot of green. So this is where you need a better, we don't want big stems for our poppies. We want nice, delicate, like fine pieces of grass. So you're going to have to use the tip of your brush and you're going to have to take the water out. So you've got that brush loaded with colour, okay? And then all we're going to do is we're going to sort of paint the stems in, okay? So let me just show you from this black element here. So I'm using the very tip of my brush and I'm just going to paint that line in, okay? as thin as I can. We can always add more detail after. Let's just get them in. So this is a side one, and it looks like it's going to go in on an arc, so I don't want to go over my poppy. So get those very, very thin lines in. Can we see that there? So now, as soon as you put that green in, can we start to see a little bit of artwork coming together? And this is why I always say, guys, stick with it right to the very end. Okay, so we've got sort of our 3 lines there. Now these ones are facing the front, so they're probably like, their green ones are just going to come from the bottom. And then this one is sort of coming from here as well underneath. But you can see how we've got them sort of connected there. Can we see that there? So now I've got my base in and I've not got such a shaky hand. I'm just going to go in and fill in those little spaces where I've sort of tried to be super careful and just make them a little bit thicker. So as delicate as you can. It might help if you have smaller brushes to swap it out, but I'm trying to stick with one brush because I appreciate not everybody has the kit. So I'm being super careful with this 4 brush, but you could do it with a 2 or whatever you've got in your stash. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, so I'm being told to slow down, so I will absolutely do that one there. So there we go. So you can see we've got our lovely lines in there. Now there's nothing stopping us from letting everybody catch up now. So you can see it's all coming together slowly. So don't be disheartened by it. We're going to do it again. Not in wet because you get 2 totally different looks and you'll be able to pick which one you like. But it's good that you try both, because if you don't try both, you're never going to know. So let's have a look. Not sure if mine look the same. It won't look the same. It's wet and wet. If you get it exactly the same, I take my hat to you. Oh, what are we like? I'm just going to give it a little time just to catch up. And like now, I'm looking at mine thinking, it does look like a hot mess. But I'm confident I can bring it back, and that's how it is. We'll not paint people then, hey? Crikey. We'd have some weird shaped people, wouldn't we? Oh, Mandy, you're asking me now, darling. I don't have the book to hand. It was a blue one, wasn't it? Botanical something. It's on the website. Go check out the name. Right, so I'm going to carry on. So what we need to do is we need to connect our green to our black. You know, the side of that. Oh, helps if I go. There we go. So we need to connect the green to the black. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to create like a bud effect at the tip. So it sort of connects in with that black. Can we see that there? And I'm going to do the same here. So I'm just going to create like a, go into the black as well so it looks more realistic. Can we see that there? So I've just connected. And just connect this one too. And then I'm just going to make my lines a little bit thicker because they're a bit sparse. Bit of wind and these would be gone, I'm telling you. So I've just connected that green with that black there. where we did our blacks on the sides, and I'm actually going to put a bit of green in the black just to make it look a little bit more realistic, okay? So are we brave enough to add some leaves? Let's add some leaves. Okay, so I will use this brush, but if you have a fatter brush, you probably get nicer leaves, but you know, I'm okay with it. So let's mix a bit more green. That's it, Botanical Painting by Harriet de Winton, that's the one. I'm just mixing a bit more green here. Now you want, you need this to be quite wet so you get a lovely fluid leaf. So you want like a puddle of colour here. Can we see the puddle? You can see me pouncing in the puddle. So get a nice puddle on there. Okay, so let's just, I would probably say practice. We might practice leaves next week, but let's just go for it. So you saw, take the water out of your brush. Just takes that water out of your brush. And let's do one to the side here. So I'm going to pop the tip of my brush down and I'm going to push my brush fat, and then I'm going to bring it off to a point. Did we see that? Let's do it again. So I'll take the water out of my brush. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do the tip, push down and bring to a point. Okay, so we need to do these in lots of different ways on our card. So I'll just keep doing them. So tip, push your brush flat and then bring your brush to a point. Can we see that there? Now you will know that poppy leaves are not this sort of shape, but to progress into the other shape would be probably too much. So we're just going to fill our gaps with some generic leaves, okay? So let's do another one. Let's do one here. So tip, push flat and bring to a point. You see that there? So let's do a few. So we need to connect them really. Let's just do one here. So tip, flat, point. See that there? So you start with your brush like overhead and then you drag it out a little bit so you get the point, then you press flat and then you taper it off to a point. So let's just show you here. So tip, flat, point. I'm explaining that. If the green's blended into the black, please leave it because it will look okay. This is wet in wet, very forgiving, you know, no rules. So let's do one here. So I'm going to go tip, flat, and bring it off to that point. You see that there? Now you'll get different shaped leaves with a different shaped brush. Okay, so you could swap out now for a fatter brush if you wanted to get those fatter leaves. And I'm just going to do one in the middle here over my stems. See that there? So let's just spot a few around. And then I'm gonna, while you're just adding your leaves, you can take some darker green. And if the leaves are still wet, you can drop some darker green into, this is the wet in wet. So just drop some darker green in. And this gives you a little bit of shading if the leaves are still wet. So a darker green just pounced in. And the water will just take it and carry it and do as it pleases, really. Add a bit more green to those. You see how adding that little bit of darker green while it's still wet sort of like elevates your leaves a little bit, you know. This one's probably quite dry, so I'll not get away with it. But if it's still wet, Okay, can we see that there? So it's sort of coming together. No, it's no great shake. It's a little bit of water, it's a bit of red. We've got some leaves, we've got some stems. We need to do sort of, shall we do like a poppy bud? So I'm just going to take the same green. Now I've always seen poppy buds, they droop, don't they? They like go down and then around. So let's do, I haven't really got much space now, filled all my gap. Let's do a little poppy head here. So same concept, to create sort of like an eye shape like that. All we do is we do tip and then down. We do it smaller, obviously. And then you do one at the other side of it, look. So tip, down, and you bring it to a point, and you can create like an eye shape. Can we see that there? So it's like a bud. So I'm going to do one there. And I'll do one up here. So tip and round. And then we're going to do one at the side of it. Tip and then round. It still looks like a leaf shape, but I'm not talented enough to get that sort of look with a one-stroke brush. So whilst those two are wet, I'm going to make sure they look different to our leaves. So I'm just going to take some black, and I'm just going to drop some black in, okay, because I want them to be buds. Just in the centre, I'm just going to drop a little bit of black in. See that there? So Amanda's saying the leaves are lovely, but shame about the pom-poms. That's fine. It's wet in wet. They will look like pom-poms. So maybe you can incorporate your great leaves with the next one we're going to do. And again, it's about, you know, finding what's going to be best for you. We're all going to be different. You can see I've got a shock of black in that green leaf. It looks really cool. And this is what's going to make our sort of buds look a little bit different. So I'm just going to take the green. I'm just going to obviously connect those in. So that would come down. I'll be down here somewhere. And then this one, I am actually going to give it a lovely curve, like it is a bud. Let me see how I've done that lovely curve there. It does look like that bud's creeping over. I'm just going to put a leaf in here as well. So if you're still going, we're just going to put one in here. Just to fill that awkward space. So you start with the tip of your brush, you push your brush flat, and then you pick it back up to that point. And this is how you get sort of the realistic leaf effect. And don't worry if some of the leaves are not connected, because it's the illusion, it's the abstract, it's the suggestion. So I've got that floating one there, but I'm not going to connect it because I don't want it connected. I think it looks quite pretty without, so you can connect some of them if you want to, or you can leave some of them absolutely floating. So hopefully everybody's buds look okay. Move that colour around a little bit. So hopefully it's coming together slowly. This one won't be going on Facebook. Come on, Jan. Come on. Anne Gordon's saying she's using pens and mixing them with water. The problem you have with pens, sweetheart, is you should really put the initial colour down with your pen on your cardstock and then drag it out with water. So it's a totally different technique, really. Yeah, they're watercolours, and yes, we can scratch them on our mat and pick them up, but they won't be as vibrant as if you have like a palette. I would suggest getting an inexpensive palette. We do have these. These are £20, I think, and they're really good. They're really, really good. So, or maybe check out your local store where you live and try and get a palette of some form. You don't need lots of colours. We have a variation of palettes here at Stamps by Me. Yes, you can buy high-end, but for card making, you know, so have a look. Palettes are better if you can. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get some of my green here, and then I'm going to add some delicate lines into my sort of leaves. Can we see there? So I'm just adding a little touch of detail, if I can, if it allows. It might be that it's too dark and it's still wet and it's not allowing, but that's fine. I'm just adding like a bit of line detail into my leaf. I'm not taking the line right to the very end. I'm just suggesting there is a vein in that leaf. So again, you need to be very careful. We don't want tree trunks. That's still wet, so that's not going to work. Okay. So our poppies are dry. So shall we go back to our poppies? Oh, Welsh poppies are yellow. Oh, somebody could try it in yellow. I bet that'd look cool. So my poppies are dry. Yeah. So let's get some detail in our poppies. Now you can add detail with watercolours, you can add detail with fine liner pens. We're going to stick with watercolours. I'm just going to get some black, mix some black up. Let's get some detail in the centre of these poppies. I'm just going to, now with this one you need less water, okay? So make sure you take the water out of your brush and you've just got that pink, the colour on there. So let's get some spots in here. So I'm just going to pop some spots. Now, I'm not going to follow suit. Just because I've got that black ring there, I'm not going to follow it, okay? I want it to look like less formal. I'm going to come this way with my black spots. I'm just pouncing the tip of my brush with some spots in there. You see that there? Try not to be formal and try not to do a perfect circle. Okay? This one's still a little bit wet, so it's sort of... Just add some black. Try not to be formal if you can. Like this one's looking more like an egg shape, and this one's quite formal still, so I'm just going to drag a little bit of it up there. Got one good poppy out of 5. That's brilliant. I'm happy with that. Got to be happy with that, guys, because we're not painters, remember. We are really just punching in the wind, but it's just practicing, really, and the things that I've learned along the way, hopefully you'll pick up as well. And some of you are really good watercolourists. Some of your work is absolutely incredible. I've seen it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to mix up a bit of red again. We're going to go back to our red. So I'm just going to swap this one out for this one. Get my red going again. So we're just going to take all of the water out of our brush. So we have our red. I've just got like a pen, really. It's a pen. And what we're going to do is we're just going to add a little bit of detail. Nothing fancy, and it needs to be really fine detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my red here. You see that little line there? Okay, I'm just going to do a suggestion as if it's a leaf. See that there? And this one I'm going to go across the sea here. Now this will dry back pretty much non-existent, okay? So have the courage to do it. I'm just adding a little bit of detail. If you don't want to do this, don't do it, okay? There are no rules, but it will dry back pretty much nothing. I'm just going in and adding a little bit of detail. sort of just brings your painting out a little bit. Can you see how we've sort of brought this one to life now? Just a few dots, a few suggestions. I'm not trying to be like, you know, in keeping with so just with that little bit of red we've got on our brush, just adding a little bit of detail just to bring our lines out a little bit. See? And then with our red, what's left to do? Some splash. Now I'm really going to go to town with the red on this. And I'm going to add some black as well. Okay, so mix up that black. You've got some black on your mat. Add some black. And you can see how, though, this is like, because it's wet and wet, we can get away with it, okay? And of course, you can go in with your fine liner pen and add outlines to your leaves and things like that. Let's dry this one off. I'll let everybody catch up. I'll just give everybody a second to catch up. I'm just going to find my little black mount from yesterday, which will hopefully show you. Just 1 second. Here we go. So although we did a bigger masterpiece, because obviously these can be cut down, I have this lovely frame here. Can we say just an inexpensive frame from the range? And when you pop part of your artwork, all of it, can we see that here? Or if you want to get a bigger frame, obviously this is quite a big painting, but if you just took the pieces that you like from your painting and you popped it in a frame, how cool it is. And you know, we're not painters, remember that, like so. And then all you need to do is, when you've got it in that beautiful frame for a loved one, don't forget to sign it. Okay, so you need a fine liner pen and you just pop your initial on. So I'm going to go TD on mine. So hopefully that's a technique you may like. I like the wet in wet technique. That's one of my go-to techniques because it's very forgiving and you don't have to be brilliant, okay? And you see the wet in wet we do on our cards and things like that. Sorry, I'm just cleaning up now whilst I'm talking. So that is one way to do it. Let me just clean the splats off here. So hopefully you've sort of liked that sort of technique. If you haven't, we're going to do it in a different way as well. So let's move on to our second piece, okay? So let's just set that one aside. And hopefully at the end of the show, you'll be able to decide which one you like the best. And it's cool, isn't it? Just to try the different ways. You're never going to know as a painter unless you try. And I love anybody that tries. So let's have a look. Have we got any questions? Lovely technique. We'll give it a go later. Brilliant. Yeah, splats are very forgiving and hide a lot of like things that we wouldn't normally But like with this one now, me personally, I would go in with a fine liner pen and add some line detail to the leaves. Maybe make that black centre of my poppies pop even more by adding the stems to the poppies and things like that. But the purpose of the class is to show you the technique, and then you can take the technique and sort of add your own little things. From last week, I saw that a lot of you would add more detail, added more things to the sky. Some of you had even put clouds in, which is brilliant, you know. If your crafty journey is telling you to add clouds, then you're already enjoying yourself, in my opinion. Best part is the splats. Right, so let's do another one. Okay, let's just show you this. Do you know the one that we, let me just go back onto this. So this is the one that we originally showed you. Can you just see how different? Boring, yeah, nice painting, boring without a frame, but as soon as you pop that lovely sort of frame around, it instantly frames your artwork. So get a couple of these, or inexpensive frames from IKEA or wherever we all shop. Okay, so let's go more formal this time, okay? So another piece of watercolour card. And again, I'm just going to wet my mat. So let's just pop some water on my mat here, and then we'll stick our card in it, just so our card sticks down. Like so. I'm just going to stick it in there as well. So is everybody ready at this stage? I'll just let everybody catch up. You can use fine liners for these. If you've got green fine, I like black fine liner pens, but you can use green if you want to. So I'm just going to take, although I've popped that piece of some water underneath, I am going to tape this one down as well. I really need some help with it pinning down for this sort of technique. I'm just going to use it on the four sides. So if you've got a bit of low tack tape, brilliant. If you haven't, it's not the end of the world. Just use, maybe if you've got some washi tape in your stash. And I'm just going to help myself out a little bit by pinning it down. There we go. So for the next technique, what we're going to do is we're not going to do like wet all over. What we're going to do is we're going to drop colour into a wet shape. So I'm just going to get my water. Now it is good that my water's a little bit mucky because I'll be able to see what I'm doing. Okay. Delivery question. What side of paper am I using? I'm using the smooth again. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring this one into shot because I think it's really important that we can follow the shapes of these maybe. They don't have to be exact, but if we've got a shape to follow, it might help. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some water on my brush and I'm just going to paint the flower with no colour with water. Okay. So my brush is wet, so let's go for this one first, the easiest one, okay? So it's like a circle, but it's got a bit of leaf shape in there. I'm just going to take my brush and I'm just going to pop some colour down now. You are not going to, oh, you might be able to see it. And I'm just going to do sort of a shape, try and do this shape here. So it's not a circle, but I'm trying to create this sort of shape here, okay, with water. So I'm going to fill in the space with water. You see that here? So I think that's good enough. Just with water, so you'll be able to see when you, let me just show you. When you look down, you'll be able to see a shape of a flower or an alien or something, okay? And then whilst it's wet like that, we're just going to take some red. I'm just going to drop some red into the shape. So the red will only go where we've painted that clean, clear water, okay? So I'm just going to drop that red into that shape. So this is more controlled. So I'm just pouncing. So the colour will only go where you've got water. You see that there? I'm just pouncing it in. Now you can paint it in smoothly if you want to do it smooth. I'm not going to do it all in red. I like a little bit of white space in there. That's super cool. Okay, so you can move it around. So you've got total control over this because you've painted that water and the colour will not go out of that water shape. It won't do it. Okay. So I can add some more red if I want to whilst it's wet. And some darker red in, maybe on the tips. See that there? We're just getting a little bit of... So you paint the shape in clean, clear water, and then you drop your red in. On the smooth side I'm doing mine on, so I'm just keep adding that red to the edges so it gives me a lovely maybe petal edge. You see that there? So some of you may like this technique a little bit better because you have more control. If some of you ended up with massive pom-poms before, then maybe this is a better way for you, okay? So painted the shape in water, and then all we're doing is pouncing some red into some areas. Now, I'm trying to keep it so we have the light red and the dark red, just so it's got difference. And what I'm doing is I'm pouncing some dark red on the tip as well, so it sort of like gives dimension to our card. See that there? And then let's mix some black again. And then with the black, I'm just going to spot some black in the centre. There we go. I'm going to leave that. Okay, so there's one. And it's working its way into our lovely red. So shall we do another one? So again, clean, clear water. Shall we attempt this sort of side design here? So if we can try and keep this shape, that'd be brilliant. So again, I'm just taking my water, clean, not very clean, which is brilliant because I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just gonna, don't go huge. This is probably the biggest one, so don't go huge. And then I'm just gonna paint some water in this sort of shape here. If you can see this shape, if you can follow this shape, you should be okay. So I'm just gonna paint that shape in some clean, clear water. And I've got a little bit of a leg going on here, so I'm gonna take it out. And then I'm just going to take it up and then fill that space in with water, okay? And if you don't want to put water all over, you will end up with a bit of white space, but fill the area with water. I'm trying to create this shape in just water. I think I'm happy with that one. I hope you can just see that water on there, okay? So again, I'm just going to take my red. So remember, we don't want lots of watery red because we've already got water on our card, haven't we? I'm just going to take that red and I'm just going to drop that red into that water. And the colour will not go beyond your water. So drop that red into that water. And just move it around. Now I like the white spots in there, but it's personal preference. And then I'm just going to keep adding that red in areas. I think this might be the better one of the two if you didn't get great success with the other one and you absolutely hate it and you're thinking this is just not for me. This is a bit more this is more controlled, so maybe you'll like this one better. I'm just going to soften my edges a little bit so it doesn't look quite right. Then I'm just going to get some more red. I'm going to drop a bit more red in there. So Rolf's saying Rolf sometimes. I know it's partners watching under husband's name, so I'm sorry if I've got that wrong, but they prefer this technique. Yep, it's personal preference. It's, you know, it's more controlled. So whilst it's wet, we just need to drop that little element of black in to create this sort of, and if it bleeds, it's okay. So I'm just going to pop it in here. You see that there? This is giving our poppy that side showing. You can see it's just working its magic. I'm not going to try and force it to do something it doesn't want to do. Okay. So if we all just go with this sort of process. So next, let's do this little one here together. So again, some water. I'm going to go smaller down here, and I'm going to make this smaller and this smaller, because I'm conscious I'm getting bigger than my boots, aren't I? So this one here, I'm going to do here, but smaller. So I'm just going to get my water, and I'm just going to do a small one here. So I've got a bit of a lump there. I've got a little bit going on around here. A little bit down here, and then I've got sort of a leaf coming down here. So I'm going to fill that in with water. Shape can always be changed, can't it, as well? So drop that water in there. And then I'm just going to pick up some of my red. Pounce it in. So I'm just pouncing it into that water as we have with our other two. Just let the water do its thing. I'm pouncing. You can see when you first start out how it sort of looks very cloudy, but then it's down to you to just sort of, you know, soften those lines if you want to. I'm just going to keep adding that red in areas, get some texture in there. So I like the white spaces, but if you don't, you just fill them in with that colour. I'm happy with that. I like the light and shade in that. I like the sort of cloud effect, but again, if you're not, you can just obviously move it around a little bit. So let's drop some black into the centre of this one. So again, I'm just less water on your brush, remember. Where's my tissue? Here we go. Less water on your brush, more paint. The water out of my brush. So whilst I've got a bit of black on my brush, I'm going to add a bit more black to this here, make it intensify it a little bit. It's still a little bit wet, just need to bring that black to life a little bit. And that's what I was saying about them drying far lighter. You've just seen me just intensify that black, because it pretty much disappeared, didn't it? Well, it didn't disappear, it's black. But, you know, we can go in and add that extra dab of colour. So you can see how we're getting some very sterile poppies on this one. So let's just do a little one at the top. And I'm not gonna go as big as this one. I'm just gonna go and add a little bit of I'm gonna do small this time, and it's just gonna be a side one. So I'm just popping that water on. This is gonna be small because I'm sort of like, I'm getting too big for my boots here. So I'm just pouncing that red in there. Just going small on this one. This is a new one. It's just opened as this one. And then we'll get some more red. I've told the hubby to go away. Oh no. One lady on her husband, he has to go to the allotments. It's freezing. I remember him telling me last week I have to go. He's like, I've taken a flask, I'll be fine. I'm like, right, okay. Hopefully she'll have a nice masterpiece to come home to. Oh, he will, should I say. Got that red in there. So I've just got like, and just soften some of those edges a bit. There we go. And just pick up some of my black and I'll just pop some back black in the base there. And just keep intensifying my blacks here. And just wait for everybody to catch up. I'm just going to keep intensifying my black whilst we wait. So how are we all getting on? Sent you out for a long walk. Hopefully, maybe this is one that you prefer. Like if you were to think about our design team, like I know Paul of our design team was very abstract and very out there. I'm not as quite out there as he is. I would love to be. I would love to have the courage, but this is the technique that you're going to absolutely love. But if you're more of a bit of a control, I won't say control freak because that's not a nice word at all. If you're more controlling with your artwork, then this might be better. But then the next one that we're going to do, hopefully, you're even more controlling on how it's going to work, but we might not complete that one, but we'll have a good go. So Jackie, if you can't see, sometimes if you bob down like I've been doing like that, you might be able to see a little bit better, it'll get a shine. Maybe the light in your room, if you've got a little lamp, you could shine over. You know, some people do have the craft lamp. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the green, and it's exactly the same as we did before with our green. So let's just get some green mixed up. Pop my red out for my green. And this is why it's really good to paint flowers, guys, because doing the leaves, continuing to do the leaves, means you're only going to get better. So let's just mix up some green. So we need to do our connecting stems like we did in the other. I'm just going to connect that green to this black here. I'm not bothered if the green runs into the black. I'm okay with it. So I'm going to be very careful. And bring those stems down. So just always remember that when you're putting your water down first and then you're adding paint, the paint doesn't need to be full of water, because what you're going to end up with is a puddle, because you've already got water down, and then when you add your paint with water. So the best thing to do is to mix the colour and then take the water out of your brush, so you're just left with colour on your brush, and then all you're going to be dropping into the water is hopefully a little bit of diluted colour, not like another big puddle on top of another big puddle. Does that make sense? Always have a tissue to hand and take the excess water out of your brush and then drop the colour in, so it's not like a puddle on puddle. If that makes sense. I hope that's helping. So now I'm going to do some buds like we did last time. I'm going to have more buds in this one because we did a lot of leaves in our last one. So let's chop it up. So I'm going to do a nice little bud here. So point, round, and bring to a point. Can you see that there? And then I'm going to do one at the side of it. Point, press flat. I have a little bud, and I'm going to paint that in as a bud. I'm going to do another one here because we didn't have as many buds last time. So paint round, bring to a point, and then paint round and bring to a point. See that there? So in fact, I'm going to have three buds to this side. And these are all going to be curling in. So when they do buds as poppies, they're sort of, the heads are really heavy, aren't they? So I'm going to paint them in like they are heavy. See that there? Sorry for the head shot. And so it all ties in. I'm going to add a bit of black in that green whilst it's a little bit wet. And just let the water carry it. And just let everybody catch up. So for those of you that are maybe a little bit ahead, you can start popping some leaves in if you wish. So you saw from the last ones, we just need to pop a few random leaves in some of the spaces. So again, get your green, just pop one here. So point, down, and off to the side. Can we see that there? So I'm not going to put lots of leaves in this one. Just fill in a little bit of the space. Point, flat, point. I know I keep saying it, but I think if you hear me saying it, you'll do it. Please. Thank you. And you can see that the wet there. So whilst they're wet, it's always good to add a bit of darker colour in there. Spot some darker colour in there, give it a little bit of shading, dimension whilst it's wet. And again, this is the technique from the first card, wet in wet. So not only are you doing something that's quite sterile at the moment, you're still using the technique that we used from our first card. And this is why it's really important to me that you try lots of different things, because albeit this is more of a sterile card, we're already using techniques from our last card. So it's really good to swap out and change how you do different things, in my opinion anyway. And if nothing else, I hope we're all having fun. It's a little bit of mindfulness, isn't it? Add a bit more dark for this one. Yeah, and then if you want to add a bit of black into the green, you can. I'm just going to spot a little bit, not a lot. I know you're all enjoying yourselves because you're all extremely quiet, which is brilliant. Silence is golden. But you can obviously enhance this design even further. You can mix up some red, add some line detail, drop a bit more shading in there. If you want to, you can take your black again, some more black detail to the centre. If you want to, tip of your brush, add that detail. And then some of my red, I'm just going to take some of my red, and I have to have splats. Now, if you're enjoying yourself and you're thinking, I really like this painting, if I add splats, I'm going to spoil it, don't add them. Do another one and add some splats to another one and see what you think. So I'm just going to add some splats here. Just using up the paint on my mat here. Add a bit of black too. So that's your second set of poppies. So whilst you're all just playing with that, that's absolutely fine. We're in no rush. I mean, we've got 5 minutes left, but I'm not going to stop. We are going to do the third one. I think it's important that we do all three so you can see which one is going to be good for you. I'm just going to tidy my station. You can continue to sort of tart it up, as I would say, play. And I'm going to let this one dry naturally. And I'm going to set that one aside. So I've got one, I've got two. And then we'll grab our third piece of card. So let's set it aside and let's move on to number 3, another piece of card, okay? So this one is the hardest, okay? Although some people find the hardest one the easiest, less forgiving, but it's important that you try it, okay? Really important that we try it. So, water. So this one's going to be quite a quick one because you don't need it wet in wet, we don't need to put water down, things like that. So I'm going to bring in my palette here, I'm going to mix my brush. So basically we're going to freehand paint, no water, no cheat, no forgivingness, we've just got to go for it, okay? So what you're going to do, let's mix some red again. So if you've got your red, just reactivate it. Thank you. So all we're going to do, I've got a lovely puddle of red here. So this is going to allow me to move that colour around. I can see that there. Yep, so no water on your card on this one. And what we're going to do is we're just going to freehand, okay? So red on my brush, and I'm just going to go in and paint a poppy. And I'm just going to do a facing one because they are the easiest, okay? So I'm just going to try and paint a little bit of a circle, and then I'm going to fill it in. So give it a little bit of a flowy feel, so it's not equal. Oh, there we go. We have a suggestion of something going on. I'm just going to mix some more, a little bit darker, if we can. And then I'm just going to sort of put a suggestion in there. Can we see that there? So this is not wet in wet, just dropping that colour in. So you can see we've got two-tone there, but that pretty much will disappear to nothing. Okay, so with this one, you definitely get those straight, harsh lines, okay? So if you are completely OCD with your craft, everything has to be clean, simple lines, then this might be the way that you need to go. I'm just dropping that darker colour in, just dropping it in. And you can see it's sort of like not doing much, not that wet. I'm just going to let it work its magic there. Now this is absolutely killing me to do it this way because it's so not me, but it's important that we all do it, even me. So let's get some black and let's drop some black in. Now you'll just, when you pop your black in, it won't move as much because we've not got, you see that there? It is moving, the paint's wet, it will move, but it is not as fluid, okay? So let's do a side one as well. So I'm just going to pick up my red. I'm going small on this one because I haven't got the confidence to do a whopper. Like so. This is going to be my side one. And then pick up some black. And I'm just going to drop some black in, you know, because it's the side. This one's a little bit wetter, as you can see. It's doing more than before. And then a red. So let's do like a side facing one up here. Add some more red on there. And we'll drop some black in. And take that water out of my brush because the other one is absolutely flooded. And back to our red. And then let's do a little open one down here too. I'm just filling in. So colour straight direct to your palette. I'm just adding that black detail. Just keep going over the top so it's a nice crisp black. Wendy, yes, we can use the invisible ink pads, of course. Paper pads, yeah, we can use those in a show, maybe next week, if that's okay. The great thing about these sort of watercolour effects is you don't have to be able to draw. You really don't. And again, they look awful, don't they, until you start. Let's add some stems. So let's mix up some green. And let's bring them into life, eh? So I'm just going to connect that green into that black. And again, we don't want tree trunks, we want delicate little stems. And it's not until you add those stems, I don't think, you can get a true sense of how it's going to look until you add those stems. I really don't, because it just looks completely different as soon as you add those lines. Now, probably a lot of you are finding this difficult. It is difficult. It's like fine art for botanicals who do the detail. It's incredibly hard. But just persevere with it till the end until you can make that decision. I'm just going to add some more black into my black area here. Okay, so this is screaming out for a really tall bud. I'm going to do a tall bud up here. So as I've shown you, we do the tip and then we push down and then we take it to a point and then we do the tip, we push down and we take it to that very same point. We see there? It needs to be a little bit darker, so I'm just add a bit more green in there. Wow. So this is long and thin is this one. So our format has changed from being chunky to fine. And we'll do a bud here too. So and we'll do this down here. And whilst they're a little bit wet, you can add some darker green or that touch of black. Sort of gives it that abstractive feel. So I'm just dropping a little bit of black in there too. But that's personal preference. I'm going to add a bit of black to my green stems as well so they don't look flat. So we do just some, let's just do a few leaves at the bottom. Keep it like slimline. So this is more DL. So again, I'm just going to go down and we'll keep it thin. I think you'll all be really good at leaves by the end of this course. They're really cool leaves. And then whilst it's wet, you can add a darker line through it. You won't get away with it while it's still a bit wet, but wait till it dries a little bit for that. Just let everybody catch up. My leaves and stems are tragic. Oh dear. So I'm going to take some of the black again. I'm going to add a bit of black into my leaves just to give them a little bit of sort of elevation because they're looking flat. My greens are looking flat. So I'm not scared of black. I'm really not scared of black. So have the courage to, you know, pop them in there. So I've got a lot of open space here. So I'm just going to try and put some like light ones in the background just to fill these awkward spaces here. As if something in the background. And then with that green, I'm just going to add black. And some red. And I'm going to add some white as well. On this one, we're going to go have some white just for difference. To just show that, you know, popping out your splat colours, how different it looks. So whilst you all add your little finishing touches or playing catch up or whatever it may be, I'll just tidy up a little bit. Ooh, really? I think 3 is the best of bad ones. Lindsay? Lindsay, you're quite precise with your watercolouring though. The attention to detail is incredible. That's probably one better suiting for you. So let's just bring everybody into shot here. So how's everybody got on? Can't wait to have a go. Thank you so much, Doreen, saying my leaves being on a diet. My buds look like leaves. You know, your buds will look like leaves because it's really a similar technique with the point and then the flat and then the point. Just maybe add a different shade of green in there just so they sort of separate themselves from the leaves, or a bit of black's a good idea. Right, so let's just bring into play here. Let's put them in order. There we go. Angela's mastered flat. That's good, that's good. So there we go. So wet in wet, wet painting the specific area, then the colour added, and then totally freehand. Okay, let's just show you how they look when we pop a frame around. So we have this one. Still a really pretty card, wet in wet, very forgiving. And if you are a starter or a beginner, it's a great starting point. Okay, next one, more formal. So you can pick which. So the lines are a little bit more defined. You paint into that water and the colour only goes where the water is. Can we see that one there? And then the last one, which, look at that, it looks beautiful in that frame. I'm not great at this sort of painting. freehand, like solid, no water to help me out. But look how incredible it looks in that frame. So it is personal preference. Yeah, it's going to take practice, and it's going to take a while for you to figure out which sort of one is best for you. But what you will find, let's just go back to me. What you will find is you will incorporate a little bit of each into your paintings. So the sort of wetting wet will probably come natural as you progress, because it's a quick and easy. And you know, when I'm always talking about paintings and perspective and background and foreground, the wetting wet gives you that background. So you're probably always going to do that. So let's just see what I'm happy with my efforts. I need a bit of practice. That's brilliant, Sue. Only second time painted in watercolours. So, albeit it's poppies, change the colour and they'll look like a different flower. So what I suggest maybe you can do is maybe practice with some other colours. This afternoon, it's raining, nobody's going to be going out, I don't think. And just get lots of A5 pieces of card and do different techniques, swap out the colours and see how you get on, and don't forget to post your makes in our Eureka fan page. I hope you've enjoyed this morning. I'm sorry it's over on only 15 minutes today. But please do give it a go, and if you've just watched and absorbed all of what we've spoken about and the techniques, then hopefully you'll have a play this afternoon. So what's to tell you about? I'm back next Saturday. I'll post a picture of what's to come next Saturday. I think that's all I've got to tell you about. Have a great afternoon, everyone, and I will speak to you all later. Now, how do I stop the video? I don't know how to stop the video. So you're going to be stuck live with me, everybody. So anything you want to talk about? I'm going to have to leave you be. I'm just going to have to go find Tim and ask him to end the recording. So what you're going to see me do now is turn off my mic and I will go get Tim. So I am going to disappear. It's not me just going off. It is the end of the show, but I don't know how to turn it off. Hey, as much as I love to try and be on my own, it never works. So you're all laughing at me now. I can't. You're going to be stuck with me all day. Oh, bless you. So I'm going to set these aside. I am going to turn my mic off. I am saying goodbye, and I'm going to go and get Tim and come to turn the studio off. So have a lovely afternoon, stroke evening. It is Saturday, so get a good movie on or whatever you love to watch, or maybe just paint and enjoy yourselves. So I will speak to you all later. This is me. This is normally what I do when I go off air, but I'm doing it now. So I'll speak to you all later. Bye.